Hello and welcome, Giuseppe. Thank
Hello.
you for joining the SweetDog Skill Hub podcast today. Today we're going to have a little bit of a special episode. Usually the Skill Hub is always held in German, but you are working for a company that acts internationally. We are going to talk about the art industry today and the role of digitization in the art industry. So I'm very much looking forward to our podcast session. Before we start deeper into the topics, maybe it would be nice for those who are listening or watching if you could shortly introduce yourself and say a few words about what you are doing currently and what is your relationship with art.
Thank you, Fabian, for the introduction. It's good to be here. It's always great to meet you. Just to give an introduction about who I am, I started my career as an engineer. So I come from an engineering background. I studied in Italy, France, and Spain, and then I finally moved to Switzerland, even though I still don't speak perfect German. Here in Switzerland, I started still as an engineer. After a few years, I moved into product management, always in the tech space. Finally, now since about 1 year, we are very focused on the art industry. I did this choice, first of all, because it was kind of a really fortunate situation. I met our CEO in a bar at the university, well, a cafe, nothing too wild. And it was such a cool project that he described to me, convinced me to join as a product manager at the time. I've been all interested in art. I was not particularly into the fine art, which is what we are focusing on at SmartStamp, but I was a collector of pop art. For me, it's collectible cards. So I was a collector of Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and cigarettes cards. Maybe someone that has the same passion as listening to this podcast can hit me up on LinkedIn. We can have a chat about. So the transition was very smooth. I had some knowledge about the struggles within the art world, even though for fine art, it's much more deep because of the market. It's very special. It's a very unique kind of asset, but it's gaining a lot of traction. It's getting really popular because it performs actually very well. I decided to jump in. Now, after 1 year, I'm head of product. I'm leading the engineering team, the UX team, and I'm the interface with business and marketing. So very busy, but very, very interesting.
Thanks, Giuseppe, for the short introduction. I would be interested getting to know more of the characteristics of the fine art market, which you just mentioned, and also the role of your company, SmartStamp, which is a technology company within this whole process.
The market, when it comes to finance, it's very, very complex. There are many stakeholders involved, but I would say the market, it's very traditional, trust oriented, like in the sense of personal relationship. And for many aspects, it relies on legacy habit. What we are doing at SmartStamp is putting together everything that characterizes an art asset, which is the asset owner, the art piece itself, and the documentation that comes with that piece, which might date back hundreds of years. We put it together in one single platform and we simplify, digitalize, and improve overall the experience for a collector, for an artist, and in an indirect way, we can also target insurers, regulators, appraisers, you name it. It's a big market. It's actually the Art Basel market study from 2024 came out a few months ago. The art market right now is estimated to be around 60 billion USD. I'm just estimating, I don't remember the exact number, in annual sales. So in 2024, it was around 60 billion. So it's a huge market. It's mostly high value, low frequency. That makes it very special. It makes it also a little bit harder to explain to customers, investors, the ROI of our solution. Interesting take from that report, which is probably the most important report yearly in the art industry, is that from those 60 billion, only around 10 billion were deriving from art sales online. So whether on the market right now, you see that for almost every type of product asset, digital sales are already there. They are dominating the market. It's the most mainstream way to trade an asset. digital means also in industries which are very traditional, like real estate. Now there's a lot of digitalization going on, a lot of new projects, some of them already very established. This digitalization still didn't touch this market. I have my theories. There are many reasons behind it. So what we are trying to do in SmartStamp is to also bring a little bit of this digitalization into an industry which is relatively untouched right now.
Could you paint an example of the relationship between a collector, an artist, for example, or a distributor? So how do they interact with each other, right? So what is the, let's say, common practice? If I try to buy an artwork from a collector, what journey did this artwork go through at this point already?
As I said previously, in the market, it's really personal relationship driven. So right now, entering the market actually very difficult, especially if you don't come from a family of collectors or artists. If you're new to this domain, it's really difficult to the market. Also, just as a collector or just make not high value purchases, it's really challenging. Information is really scattered. What is the most common way right now? And as it's based on personal relationship, is for artists to rely on galleries. And what these galleries do really well is to create a community, to be a really good conversation partner for the artists and a really good conversation partner for collectors. So they manage really well to put everybody together, to bring everybody in the same space, let's say, and they facilitate the network between them. So our objective with SmartStamp is not to replace anybody within the market, but is to empower them, to give them some tools, some digital tools, some new technologies that they can use, prove the way they interact, the way they can be discovered, the way they prove the authenticity of their pieces, which is something really important, especially when you want to sell something or you want to lease something from your collection. You need to provide documentation which involves authenticity certificates, provenance records, export license. All these documents come from different sources. And right now, there is not a platform which brings everything together and really makes the life easier for collector and artists to be able to interact without headaches. And that's what we want to do. We want to facilitate this person. We don't want to change the core of the market. We know that it's a very traditional industry driven by personal relationship, and we love that. But we want to empower people and to give them the possibility of exploring those relationships without the headache of having to produce tons of paperwork.
Yeah, thank you, Giuseppe. So I would be interested in concretely how is this process now changing due to the technology that SmartStamp provides for the collector from his perspective, but also from the art perspective, for example.
Yeah, sure. From someone that comes from a technology background, our solution is actually very straightforward. But now we based our technology on 3 pillars, which are art owner authentication, asset authentication, documentation, digitization. For the asset owner, we have a KYC process that allows the owner to become part of our community. For the asset, we have our computer vision algorithm, which is operating in similar industries since over a decade. And for documentation, we use a partner company, which you might know, which focuses on digitizing documentation in a very special way. There is the digitization of the physical document, the storage, and then on top of that, they add blockchain and AI technology to make the experience very, very special and very innovative. So thanks to bringing all this together, the relationship, the trust between the collector and the artist, it's really, really improved also through digital channels. So right now, if I want to interact with some artists which I might not know, and I might not rely on a gallery because I'm new in the market, I just want to interact with an artist which I find interesting, I find online. Usually they operate on Instagram. I contact them, but if I want to purchase something, it's always a little bit tricky. Yes, they can produce some documentation, but what is it backed on? What we do is providing our Swiss quality and our technology, our experience in technology to those players in the market to really have a platform where they can improve the trust between each other and focus the conversation only on what it is at the end of the day, which is art, and the discussion between the artist and what the art wants to give to the collectors, which is not just the paperwork. It's the message, the emotional the connection. It's much more important than the whole paperwork. For the paperwork, we are there for that. We take care. We give you an easy solution to take care of that, and you can focus only on producing art, purchasing art, and have amazing discussion between each other.
So your technology is more or less a mediator, man in the middle that enables artists to prove the authenticity of their artworks. And for the collectors, it builds more trust into the artwork they receive because they really have something they can rely on. Bought an art piece, I can really be sure that what I receive is the actual piece that I just purchased, right?
Exactly. But we don't only prove the authenticity. We don't only give the peace of mind of having us taking care of all that. What we do provide is the possibility of within our community. That's really what we want to achieve, to build a community that talks the same language and really cares about art. So we are a tech company. We have this product offering, but we want to also build a community that can give even additional value to our users and subscribers.
What would you consider the biggest challenges from perspective when trying to establish yourself in this traditional and niche sector?
That's a good one. I could talk for a week about this topic, but I'll try to keep it very short. One of the biggest obstacle, it's of course the legacy habits current market players have and they're used to. Sometimes changing the mindset of people, it's even more difficult than providing the actual product. Sometimes stakeholders, for example, collectors, they fear losing control over their collection, of losing a part of it, even if it's right now not really managed, even if it relies on paperwork, on old CRMs. I've seen any kind of application, which might be really scary for someone that comes from a tech background. But even if that's the situation they are in and they are aware of that, sometimes they fear that relying on something else will take away a part of that attachment that they have to the collection. When we talk about art, it's really special because for many people, it is not just an asset. It's not a stock. It's something that they really care about. It has a financial value, of course, but it has a deep, deep emotional connection. So it's not as easy as tokenizing a real estate property. I don't know, I'm thinking realty or some companies that are doing this and they just sell fractionalized part of the property. That's really cool application. But with art, it's much more difficult because it's not the financial value. It's the love and the care that people put into that piece, and the collectors also care about that piece as a child. But yeah, exactly as a child, because most probably it's going to survive you. It's something that it's really impressive to deal with. It's really interesting, but it's also very challenging. On a financial aspect, I would say the most challenging part is ROI of the solution, because right now the art market by default, by design, is high value, low volume. Digital art that might have a shift. Right now it looks like that. But even in this case, the return, it's obvious. Managing a collection as it's done like now, without digital solutions, relying on paperwork or old software, it's not secure. It's not good for neither the collector nor the possible buyers, but even the artist. It's not good for building a provenance record. So it's just a no-brainer. This have to happen. We are trying to make it happen, and we want to make it happen without forgetting the emotional connection to art. For a collector or for an artist, it's something that most of the time it's much more valuable rather than the mere financial aspect.
What changes can you observe in regard to the changes of generation? I mean, right now, the baby boomer generation is about to retire, but probably in the art market, let's say the people are staying for a longer time. But regardless, we have the natural change of life and the natural change of generation there also. What is your perspective on these topics, especially with younger generations or art collectors that are just starting to collect artwork, art pieces? What is the changes that you can observe?
What I can see from younger collectors is surely, as you can expect, a higher degree of openness towards digital sales and digital communication channels. So this is clear. However, I still notice that what most of the new entrant in the younger generations, they have some already existing link with previous generation in the market. So in a way, they are taught to think in a certain way, which is a little bit of a friction for digital efforts. On the other end, what I also notice, they have to face the condition of the current ecosystem. So if the current ecosystem it's not providing means explore those digital connection and those digital channels, then you might be more open to, but you just don't have a way to do that. So in that sense, it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. You don't provide a solution, but then you still notice that the market is not ready. But how can it be ready if we are not actively trying to promote something within the right angle? It's really complex, but it's nice to see how new generation are slowly but steadily shifting the way this market works.
And then let's say, we have some listeners in more traditional industries. Probably it's also interesting to learn, yes, how to market the products. So what is your approach at SmartStamp? I mean, you don't need to go into the secret details. What is your approach in winning these very traditional markets for your new services that potentially have impact on a bigger scale?
Look, in a way, it's extremely complex. In another way, it's actually kind of easy. So you don't need to frame your solution as this is gonna completely revolutionize. It's gonna change the market. It's gonna break things. We don't really want to break anything. We want to empower people, our core value, and that's really what makes people interested in our solution. Among our team, we have few people coming from tech. I would say it's 50-50 split. And the other 50% comes from art. So they really understand what art in general is, what it means for a collector or for an artist. It really, I think it's important when you develop a new product that brings innovation in the market to understand the current market dynamics and where they come from. And we do have that capability within our team. So in a way, it's just natural. We recently led the panel discussion with Deloitte at Art Basel about art collection. When you speak the same language of your customers, it's much more easy and natural. I would say that's the secret.
Thank you, Giuseppe, for sharing this insight. So my next question is more directed to the future or the vision of the art market. So what do you personally believe in? I mean, no one can look into the glass bowl and see what will happen tomorrow. Everyone has an image in the back of his head. So what does your personal image look like for the future of this industry from your previous experiences?
I'm really passionate about this topic, and I really like to try to foresee the future. It's challenging because we are also kind of in a early stage when it comes to digitalization in the art market. What I see that is a really interesting application for art is tokenization. I don't say it in well, I'm passionate about the topic in general. I think that tokenization as it is applied to financial assets, it would not work too well within the art market. But I do believe that building digital passports that travel with the art piece and the owner, and that can travel with the art piece in future generations or everywhere globally, that's really, really something that the market needs. And this can be enabled in a few ways on a technical perspective. But the important thing is to have all the information in one place and build really this digital passport that can follow the art piece wherever and at any time in the present and in the future. There are other trends which I'm interested in. Of course, I follow regulation. This has always been a little bit flexible for the art market. Recently, there are some much more strict regulation. This is good for our solution, but it's also something that is going to reshape the market in a way. It's really important for me, also for the work I do, to really stay on top of. And I also follow AI generated art. I'm not an expert in that, but yeah, I try to follow every trend and to see how the industry is going to change in the next years.
To close the session up, could you try to describe with 3 adjectives?
Okay, it's a tough exercise. Well, it will be according to my experience and my role.
Yes.
So it might be completely biased. I would say first one that comes in mind, it's promising. I think there is a lot of opportunity in the art market, especially for digital solutions. So I would say that's the first adjective that's to my mind. The second one would be special. It's really interesting to see all the different dynamics of the stakeholders within this market. It's really nice to interact with people which have such special stories and such different type of way of thinking than I have, coming from a background which is completely different. So it's always a good learning opportunity. And the last one, I would say, is very traditional, but I don't say it in a negative sense. It's for sure more challenging to target a market which is so traditional, but it also make it much more interesting. I just think if you have the right team, it can be an amazing fit.
And my last question is also a more of a personal one, if you allow. So how has the experience at SmartStamp shaped you personally? So what were some of the things that you learned during the time that you worked for SmartStamp?
For SmartStamp, I think I was the employee number 2. So it was really building the company almost from ground up. This really changed you in so many aspects, especially when your background is, yes, in tech, but not exactly within the industry we move in. It pushed me to learn so many things about some aspect of the market which I was not really aware of. It pushed me to really research deeply within the topics that we deal with every day. And I think overall it made me much more resilient to any kind of challenge that might happen. Started about 1 year ago with our CEO, Gregor. And now we have an amazing team, but it took time from that point where we started to now. It took effort. It really takes responsibilities, wearing infinite amount of hats. It really shapes you in a way, not only because you're dealing with such a special and interesting industry, but also because you are dealing with the company, which is recently born and is growing. So it's kind of your baby.
Thank you, Giuseppe, for those personal insights. So I would say we will maybe leave it with that for today. I think we could continue for much longer, but I will call it a day for today. Giuseppe, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Fabian.
And it was great talking to you.
Likewise. Hey, thank you for the time. Thank you for the space, and talk to you soon. Cheers.